I was a U.S. soldier, deployed in a remote, forested area on a mission that I couldn't disclose to anyone. My team and I were well equipped and trained, but nothing could have prepared us for what we encountered in those woods. It all started when we were out on a reconnaissance mission, scouting the area for any potential threats. As we moved deeper into the forest, I suddenly felt a sense of unease, as if we were being watched. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just my nerves playing tricks on me. But then, out of nowhere, I heard a loud growling sound. It was unlike anything I had ever heard before. My heart started racing as I tried to locate the source of the noise. That's when I saw it, a huge, beast-like creature with glowing eyes staring straight at us. At first, I thought it was a bear or a large wolf, but as it moved closer, I realized that it was something else entirely. It was unlike any animal I had ever seen. It was easily 10 feet tall, with thick, matted fur that seemed to glow in the moonlight. Its eyes were a piercing shade of yellow, and its teeth were long and sharp. I signaled to my team to get ready, but before we could even raise our weapons, the creature charged at us with incredible speed. It was like a freight train, barreling towards us with unstoppable force. We fired our weapons, but they seemed to have no effect on the creature. It was like we were shooting at a tank. Our bullets bounced off its thick hide, barely even scratching it. The creature didn't even seem to feel the impact of our shots, and it continued to charge toward us. We tried to run, but it was too fast. It was like it was toying with us, letting us think we could get away before lunging forward again. It seemed to be playing a game of cat and mouse, and we were the mice. After what seemed like an eternity, we finally managed to get some distance between us and the creature. We stopped to catch our breath, trying to figure out what we should do next. That's when we realized that we were lost. We had no idea where we were or how to get back to our base. We huddled together, trying to come up with a plan. We knew that we couldn't outrun the creature forever, and we had no way of defending ourselves against it. We were completely outmatched. As we sat there, trying to come up with a plan, we heard a low growling sound coming from behind us. We turned around, and there it was, the creature, looming over us with its glowing eyes and sharp teeth. We knew that we were done for. We had no chance of surviving an attack from that thing. But then, something strange happened. The creature seemed to lose interest in us, turning around and disappearing back into the woods. We were stunned, unsure of what had just happened. It was like the creature had decided that we weren't worth its time. We took that opportunity to get out of there as fast as we could, running blindly through the forest until we finally stumbled upon our base. When we reported what had happened, no one believed us. They thought we were just making it up, trying to come up with an excuse for getting lost in the woods. But I knew what I had seen. I knew that there was something out there, something that we were never meant to encounter. To this day, I can still hear the growling of that creature, haunting me in my dreams. I don't know what it was or where it came from, but I know that it was real, and I know that I never want to encounter it again. After that incident, my team and I were given a new mission in a different location, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we had left something unfinished behind us. I couldn't stop thinking about that creature, and I knew that I had to find out more about it. I started doing research, trying to find any information that could help me understand what we had encountered in that forest. It took me months of digging through obscure reports and legends, but finally I found something that caught my attention. It was a story about a creature known as the Wendigo, a mythical beast that was said to inhabit the forests of North America. According to the legends, the Wendigo was a spirit that could possess humans and turn them into cannibalistic monsters. It was said to be almost impossible to kill, and it had an insatiable hunger for human flesh. As I read more about the Wendigo, I realized that the creature we had encountered in the woods fit the description almost perfectly. It was like the legend had come to life before our very eyes. I shared my findings with my team, but they were skeptical. They thought that I was grasping at straws, trying to find an explanation for something that didn't make sense, but I knew that I was onto something. I became obsessed with the Wendigo, reading every scrap of information I could find about it. I even started to have vivid nightmares about the creature, dreaming of it stalking me through the woods, its glowing eyes fixated on me. Eventually, my research led me to a group of indigenous people who claimed to have encountered the Wendigo in the past. They told me that the creature was a malevolent spirit that preyed on those who were lost or weak. They warned me that once the Wendigo had set its sights on me, there was no escaping it. I knew that I had to go back to that forest to face the Wendigo head-on. It was like a calling. I couldn't ignore the pull that the creature had on me. I went back to the forest, this time alone. I didn't tell anyone where I was going or what I was doing. I knew that they wouldn't understand. I was armed with everything I could carry: weapons, food, water, and a sense of determination that bordered on madness. I spent days searching the woods, looking for any sign of the Wendigo. I was determined to find it, confront it, and prove that I wasn't crazy. And then, on the fourth day, I saw it. It was like a flash of movement, a blur in the corner of my eye. I turned around, my heart pounding, and there it was, the Wendigo standing before me. It was even more terrifying than I remembered. Its eyes glowed with a malevolent light, and its teeth were bared in a snarl. It was like it was daring me to attack, to prove myself worthy of its attention. I raised my weapon, preparing to fire, but then something strange happened. The Wendigo spoke. Its voice was like a whisper, barely audible above the rustling of the leaves. It spoke in a language I didn't understand, but somehow I knew what it was saying. It was asking me why I had come, why I was so determined to face it. It was like the creature could sense my obsession, my need to understand what had happened in that forest. I didn't know what to say. I was frozen, unable to move or speak. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the Wendigo was gone, disappearing back into the forest. I never saw it again after that. I left the forest, feeling like I had achieved some kind of closure, but also feeling like I had lost a part of myself. The encounter with the Wendigo had left me shaken and changed in ways I couldn't explain. I knew that I could never go back to being the person I was before. Years passed, and I left the military to start a new life. But the memory of the Wendigo stayed with me, haunting me like a ghost. It wasn't until much later that I began to understand the true meaning of my encounter with the Wendigo. I had been searching for answers, trying to understand something that was beyond my comprehension. But the Wendigo had shown me that sometimes there are things in this world that can't be explained or understood. It had also shown me that there are forces in this world that are much greater than us, and that sometimes it's better to leave those forces alone. I still think about the Wendigo sometimes, wondering what would have happened if I had taken a different path. But I know that I made the right choice in the end. I faced my fears and my obsessions head on, and I emerged on the other side, a changed man. And now, whenever I'm walking through the woods or hiking through the mountains, I can feel the presence of the Wendigo around me. It's like a warning, a reminder that there are things in this world that we can never truly understand. But I'm at peace with that now. I know that there are some mysteries that are better left unsolved, and some creatures that are better left alone. I was a U.S. soldier stationed in the Pacific Northwest, tasked with conducting routine patrols of the dense forests surrounding our base. I had heard rumors of strange occurrences in the woods, but I never paid them much attention. That was until one fateful night when I encountered something that would shake me to my core. It was just past midnight, and I was on my final patrol of the night when I heard a low growl emanating from the trees. I froze in my tracks, my heart pounding in my chest as I slowly scanned the surrounding area. That's when I saw it. A creature that looked like it came straight out of a Bigfoot documentary. It was massive, towering over me at least 9 feet tall, covered head to toe in thick matted fur. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was unlike anything I had ever encountered before. I raised my rifle, not knowing if it was a friend or foe. The creature let out a roar that echoed through the trees, and I knew then that it was not friendly. It charged towards me with lightning speed, and I barely had time to react. I fired my rifle and the creature stumbled back, but it didn't stop. It continued charging towards me, undeterred by the bullets. In a moment of panic, I turned and ran back towards the base as fast as I could, my heart racing and my mind racing with fear. As soon as I arrived back at the base, I immediately reported what had happened to my commanding officer. He didn't believe me at first, but after seeing the fear in my eyes, he knew that something had happened. We organized a search party to go back into the woods and investigate. We searched for hours, but we found no sign of the creature. It was as if it had vanished into thin air. My commanding officer eventually dismissed the incident, chalking it up to my imagination, or maybe even a bear. But I knew what I had seen, and it was something much more sinister than a simple bear. For weeks I couldn't sleep, plagued by nightmares of the creature chasing me through the forest. I knew I had to find out what it was, or it would haunt me for the rest of my life. I spent weeks poring over books on local folklore and legends, trying to find any mention of a creature like the one I had encountered. That's when I stumbled upon a story about the Sasquatch, a legendary creature said to inhabit the Pacific Northwest. The more I read, the more I realized that the creature I had encountered was not a mere figment of my imagination, but a real flesh-and-blood being. The Sasquatch was a creature that had been sighted by many people over the years, and its existence had been hotly debated by scientists and researchers. I knew that I had to find more evidence of the creature's existence, and so I began to explore the woods in my free time, looking for any signs of its presence. I scoured the forest, looking for footprints or any other clues that might lead me to the creature's lair. It wasn't until one early morning, just as the sun was rising, that I finally found what I had been looking for. I stumbled upon a clearing deep in the woods, and there, standing in the center of the clearing, was the Sasquatch. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was even more massive than I remembered, and it looked straight at me with its deep-set eyes. For a moment we just stood there staring at each other. Then, without warning, the creature let out a roar and charged towards me. I was frozen in fear, but I managed to raise my camera and snap a photo just before the creature was upon me. I knew I had to act fast, so I turned and ran as fast as I could. The creature chased after me for what felt like miles, but eventually it gave up the pursuit. When I returned to the base, I showed the photo to my commanding officer, but he still didn't believe me. However, I knew that I had finally found proof of the Sasquatch's existence, and I vowed to continue my research until I had irrefutable evidence. Over the next few months, I spent every free moment exploring the forest, searching for any signs of the creature. I began to piece together a picture of its behavior, its habits, and its movements. I even managed to capture a few more photos and even some video footage. Eventually, my research caught the attention of a team of scientists who were studying the Sasquatch. They invited me to join their team, and together we continued to gather more evidence and data about the elusive creature. In the end, our research was groundbreaking, and it proved beyond a doubt that the Sasquatch was a real living creature. My encounter with the creature had been the catalyst for this discovery, and I felt a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment that I had never experienced before. Years later, as I look back on my time in the Pacific Northwest, I realized that my encounter with the Sasquatch was the most defining moment of my life. It had led me on a path of discovery and research that I had never imagined possible, and it had given me a sense of purpose that I had been searching for my entire life. I may have been ridiculed and dismissed by some, but I know what I saw, and I know that the Sasquatch is out there waiting to be discovered by those who are willing to believe. I had always been an adventurous person, seeking out new experiences and thrills wherever I could find them. That's what led me to Yosemite National Park, with its stunning scenery and endless trails to explore. But what I found there was something I never could have expected. As I hiked deep into the park, I heard a strange noise coming from somewhere ahead of me. It sounded like a cross between a howl and a growl, and it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should turn back, but my curiosity got the better of me. I had to know what was making that sound. I followed the noise until I came to a small clearing where I saw something that I still can't explain. It was a creature that looked like a cross between a man and a dog, with shaggy brown fur and piercing yellow eyes. It stood on its hind legs and towered over me, emitting a low growl that sent a shiver down my spine. I froze in terror, unsure of what to do next. The creature seemed to be sizing me up, deciding whether I was a threat or not. I knew that I was in danger, but I couldn't bring myself to move. Suddenly, the creature lunged at me, teeth bared and claws outstretched. I dodged out of the way just in time, scrambling backwards until I was out of range. The creature circled me, growling and snarling as if it were trying to decide whether to attack again. But just as quickly as it had appeared, the creature was gone, vanishing into the woods as if it had never been there at all. I was left alone, shaken and confused by what I had just witnessed. I stumbled back to my campsite, unsure of how to process what I had just seen. I told myself that it must have been a bear or some other wild animal, but I knew deep down that it was something else entirely. Days turned into weeks, and I couldn't shake the memory of the creature from my mind. I searched the internet for any information I could find about it, but there was nothing. It was as if the creature had never existed, as if I had imagined the whole thing. But then, one night, I heard the howling again. This time, it was louder and more insistent than before, as if it were calling out to me. I knew that I had to follow it, no matter the danger. I followed the howling deep into the woods, until I came to a cave that I had never seen before. The howling was coming from inside the cave, and I knew that I had to go in. As I crept deeper into the cave, I saw movement in the shadows. The creature emerged from the darkness, snarling and growling as if it were protecting something. And then I saw it, a small litter of puppies, all with the same shaggy fur and piercing yellow eyes as the creature. I realized then that the creature wasn't a monster, but a mother. She was protecting her young, just as any mother would. And suddenly, the fear and confusion that had consumed me for weeks melted away. I saw the creature for what it truly was, a part of the natural world, a creature that deserved respect and protection. As I left the cave, I knew that my life would never be the same. I had witnessed something truly extraordinary, something that few people would ever experience. I returned to my campsite, my mind racing with questions and thoughts about what I had just experienced. How could a creature like this exist? And why had I never heard of it before? Was it a one-of-a-kind anomaly, or were there others like it out there in the wilderness? I spent the next few days exploring the park with renewed energy and a new perspective. Everywhere I went, I kept an eye out for any signs of the creature or its kin. I talked to other hikers and campers, but no one had ever seen anything like what I had encountered. And then, on my final day in the park, I saw it again. This time it wasn't alone. There were 3 of them, all with the same shaggy fur and piercing yellow eyes. They moved together in a pack, hunting and foraging in the forest. I followed them from a distance, my heart pounding with excitement and a touch of fear. I watched as they interacted with each other, communicating in ways that were both familiar and alien to me. I marveled at their strength and agility, their ability to move through the forest with grace and power. And then, something happened that I never could have predicted. One of the creatures turned and looked directly at me. Its yellow eyes seemed to bore into my soul, as if it were trying to communicate with me in some way. And then, in a flash, everything changed. The creature morphed, its fur receding and its body changing shape until it was no longer a dog-like creature, but something much more familiar. It was a man. I stumbled back, my mind reeling with confusion and disbelief. How could this be possible? Was it some kind of hallucination or trick of the light? But as I watched, the other 2 creatures changed as well, transforming into men right before my eyes. They were all clad in tattered clothes, their faces scarred and weathered by years of living in the wilderness. They approached me, their expressions unreadable. I was terrified, unsure of what they wanted or what they were capable of. But then one of them spoke. "We have been watching you," he said, his voice gruff and deep. "We know that you mean us no harm, but you must keep our secret. If anyone were to find out about us, it would be the end of us all." I nodded, too stunned to speak. The three men disappeared into the forest, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a newfound sense of wonder and amazement. I left the park that day, knowing that I had experienced something truly extraordinary. I had encountered a creature that defied explanation, a creature that was both wild and human, both animal and sentient being, and I knew that I would never forget it.